Hi everyone, and thanks for checking out my channel. I'm now going a bit to have a look at natural gas, and I think the last video I made was on the 27th. It was just prior to the large gap between October and November contracts, and as I said, was willing to trade this the short side, but wasn't willing to actually trying to catch that move to the downside straight here, but wanted to see exhaustion to the upside, so roughly around 2.9 somewhere there, but it would start accumulating shorts. Didn't happen that way. As we can see, we got a big drop straight, almost straight at the opening. That did actually go down and visit the 240 level, and from there we had quite I think it was on the hour, so maybe on one. That was on the 1 hour, I think. Quite a nice buy signal when it dropped down to 245, and then we had that divergence here. I think yes, just divergence here. I didn't trade this, attempted to enter long but got stopped out on that break to the downside. Quite unfortunate because that was actually quite a profitable trade, but yeah, volatility is just a little bit tricky, and with such a gap underneath, there's just no safe place you can actually put a stop loss without risking too much of your capital. So it was a risky trade, but the signal was neat. Was that kind of divergence when we dropped there with such a big loss of momentum. It's usually exhaustion, but it actually took that last drop here before it did actually move to the upside. So that was a failed one, and yeah, that just happens. Now looking at what could be happening next. If we look at the quote report, there's not much in here. It was rather flat during that period, but with some significant spike to the upside. We can see open interest positive, but more importantly, the management did actually reduce their short position, short exposure, but didn't actually add too long, which is a little bit surprising, and you would have expected them to start accumulating ahead of winter. That's not something pointing to large and big spike that early before winter is actually starting. So it does actually comfort me into the strategy to go and short that market again. Still a contango between November and December is sitting at 16% now, so that's significant. If we should see such a move to the upside, or such a contango as we are approaching rollover, I believe we're gonna get a case for short that's going to be very interesting. So if we look now at the situation, we don't have a short signal yet, but what I'll be looking at is on the 4 hour, as it's my preferred time frame when trading natural gas, because it's highly reliable. As we can see here, we're compressing now with that triangle above that 2.70, so I think this is bullish short term. We're gonna get some probably action to the downside earlier next week. I believe more rigs been added again in the US. Production is definitely ramping up a little bit, or at least did not actually reduce anymore. So I think it will put a bit of pressure, and the storm is gone as well. So we could see 2.60, 63 somewhere there before we would actually see the accumulation to resume to the upside. I believe we are going to see 2.90. For the same reason, I was really cautious entering long at that point at 2.4. I'm extremely cautious entering long here because we're still having a huge gap to the downside that I believe we're going to close, and we're going to close it before winter does actually start. And I'm not expecting a massive spike if we do see a spike this winter, because we should remember what happened last year. But should we see a spike for this winter, I don't believe that will happen before December and January contract potentially. So we're still having a bit of room to the downside, definitely to go down and revisit that level, potentially 1.9. But definitely 2.10 is to me almost unavoidable in the coming weeks. Now, from where we're going to short this, that's the question, because we don't want to get caught against natural gas when it's moving to the upside, and of course we need a really strong sell signal before we start accumulating and get in position. So we had a very neat one here. The last move we got to 2.70. We can see here very clean divergence on a key level here, 2.70, and I want to see the same thing happening now at 2.9, potentially breaking a little bit higher. 2.9 was, if I remember right, the top of last winter, before we got that significant drop to the downside. So that was a massive move to the downside. Are we getting the same thing? Very hard to tell. Of course, it could break to the upside as well. So, but in any case, 2.9 will be a very key level to watch, and we will have a safe stop loss that we can set in case we see some spike to the upside or for any reason some move breaking much higher. So the plan is like this. We're talking here about 1 week, so potentially next week won't be any setup in place except if something is moving really fast, but divergence to that point would be nice. So if we can see the price pushing a little bit higher into the RSI in overbought, somewhere around 75 would be good. Hopefully 78, maybe even 80 would be great. Should we get this, a drop back to the support and a move to the upside, breaking a little bit higher with the divergence, that will be the entry point, and then we'll see if we can break that trend line. That will be a confirmation that we are going lower. So it would look something like this from that point on the break, and then we would go for a quick revisit on 240, potentially some range bound here, before we would actually go down and close the gap and break on the trend line at $2. Of course, at that level, prior to winter starting, and assuming we don't get something similar to what we got last year, that could be a nice long entry. That could be happening within a month, somewhere 3 to 4 weeks from here. That would be potentially a nice entry point. But at this point, I'm not expecting the price to move much higher than 2.9. It would be really hard to break, except if we got some very early winter coming, which is not for now anything we can forecast. It's just too early. So yeah, that will be my plan. I'm checking on this on Wednesday, and if you want to follow, as I said in my WTI video, you can join a WhatsApp group. I will put entry and what I'm looking at on this market, but other markets as well, and to time the entry perfectly, as you don't want to get caught and start accumulating to simple level on natural gas. Too dangerous, even if on the short side this is a little bit safer than on the long side, but still we are approaching winter, so if you short this market, you need to make sure you know what you're doing. You cannot just short this on levels and hoping for winter not to come. That's not working that way. You need to be safe and make sure the funds are actually backing up your position, just in case it goes opposite, then you can exit without massive loss. That's all. Email tradingplan00@gmail.com. Drop me email, I'll get back to you if you want to join the group. I'll be with pleasure. And yeah, until then, I wish you safe trading, and I speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.